Hey, everybody, welcome back to Healed Whole Called. I'm Wendy Melrose. And sometimes healing doesn't happen inside four walls. It happens when we step into the unknown and discover who God is out there. Today, I am joined by Nathaniel Allenby, artist, author, adventurer, and founder of Cirque Quirk, who cycled 28,000 miles across countries and states, living off the grid and relying almost entirely of kindness of strangers. What he discovered wasn't just adventure, it was trust, it was connection, and it was renewed belief in the goodness of humanity. And if you've ever felt disconnected, cautious, or unsure of how to trust again, this conversation will meet you there. So, welcome, Nathaniel. Honor to have you here.
Oh, thanks, Wendy. It's a real honor to be here. And indeed, if faith wavers, I tell you, there are reasons to believe.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, I'd love for you to take us back to the beginning. What stirred in you that made you say yes to a 28,000-mile journey?
I had actually gotten really depressed. I was going to college for politics, post 9/11 and Bush W era, and I didn't see a future in it for me. I ended up dropping out of college, had no idea what to do with my life. And despite becoming a full time gamer, becoming an international grand champion at World of Warcraft at the first ever Blizzard convention, I didn't know what to do with my life. And my best friend saw this. And so he offered me a one-way plane ticket to Europe and a bicycle when we got there, as long as I would just ride around with him wherever he wanted to go. So I said yes.
That is fascinating. So, okay, it's like pivot back to World of Warcraft. I know it has nothing to do with anything, but it's fascinating that you used to love to play that and compete because that's a game I loved playing as a young adult, as I'll call myself.
Mhm.
It was fascinating. So, um, anyway, the reminiscing on the past is always fun. So share with us like what it was like to do that biking. Like, did you like go out expecting to do 28,000 miles, or was it just one of those things where just built over time, like most things?
Admittedly, I had no idea what I was going to get involved with. I didn't even ask my friend, "Oh, what's your plan?" while we're there. I was like, "I'm sitting at a computer all day fearing living in reality.
Oh,
I think this is a much better idea moving forward." And I really trusted this friend. He was my best friend. He has changed my life in so many ways. But getting out there and actually pedaling, the first night we're sleeping in below freezing temperatures in a park,
hmm.
like true homeless people, having no idea where our next meal was going to come from. Amsterdam is extremely difficult to navigate. All of the streets turn. So you start out going northwest and you end up going east. It's And as we got on the road after getting our bicycles, which took us a week, we didn't realize that it would have been a better idea to buy them in the United States and ship them over with us. We got on the road and we didn't speak Dutch. Most of the road signs aren't in English. So we kept getting lost. We kept finding this one sign. It's one of my favorite stories. It's called Durgan Verkeer, and I'm probably butchering that Dutch pronunciation. It literally means through traffic, but it became our Shangri-La. We couldn't find it on a map anywhere, but it almost always led us in the direction we needed to go, which is usually right through. And so we learned a couple months in what it meant, and I laughed and was sheepishly embarrassed at the same time.
Oh, that's so funny.
But in Europe, it was three guys to begin with. One guy dropped, so down to two, just my best friend and I. The other guy, his mom lied, said she was dying, and that got him to go home. And his life took a whole bunch of different turns after that, but it also gave me and my buddy an opportunity to like really establish a partnership,
Hmm.
a core brotherhood, if you
Yeah.
will,
Well,
that
and
lasted so long, but gone.
that's so awesome. I love it. And this is all before cell phones. Like now we have Google Translate. So if we don't know something, we can quickly snap a picture and it could tell us what it is. But this
Mhm.
is all in what 2002 or so.
2006 was the
Yep.
beginning. There was some minor technology. Smartphones hadn't really exploded yet. You
Yeah,
know, Blackberries were a thing. But yeah, we didn't have any more technology than a compass and a digital camera.
that's so fun. So when you first started relying on strangers for shelter and support, what surprised you the most?
So the very beginning, I was so timid and meek that it was difficult to ask. But when I finally got up the courage to do so, the thing that surprised me the most was how commonly people said yes, without hesitation or reservation. That people are generally kind the world around. Even
Mhm.
speaking to a variety of other cyclists, there's a consistency in stories where people going through Muslim countries are treated incredibly well.
Good.
People are given food, shelter, water, whatever they need. Not that it's any different necessarily in Christian cultures. I got a great deal of help around the United States, and I also got some people who were weary here, especially if I'm walking up to their or riding my bike up to their house and knocking on their door with them not expecting me whatsoever.
Sure.
But everywhere we went, we ended up translating this little note that we could give to people so that if they didn't understand English, it would still convey what we were doing and what we needed in terms of support.
Mhm.
And people were often way more willing to give us even more than we asked for than we anticipated.
That's super awesome. Well, and I'm glad that you experienced such friendliness in cultures that were, unfamiliar because we all have our typical prejudices and biases just because it's we don't know or we've been told or we've heard, right? It
Mhm.
doesn't mean it's true. So I'm glad you were able to trust yourselves to go out there and be a part of communities that were anormal from what you're normally being a part of.
Agreed. Yeah, I have firsthand experience attestation of unbelievable kindness from
Mm,
people around the world, from different cultures, different countries, rich and poor, whether I just met them or asked for help or they were coming up to me. People saw someone who was vulnerable and in need and were more than willing to provide help.
that's awesome. So at what point did you realize it wasn't just a cycling trip, that it was becoming something deeper?
It was actually years after that I had finished. While I was in this process, I would cycle a whole bunch, stop somewhere, recover a little, keep going. Every once in a while, I'd return to Portland, Oregon, my hometown, kind of recover, stay with friends and family, assure them that nothing bad was happening in my life, see old friends, and then maybe make a little money, get a job, get back on the road again.
Mhm.
And little did I realize at the time that I was totally rediscovering a faith in humanity that I had lost throughout my childhood.
Mm.
That there was a real spiritual journey element to this. I ended up learning about people like the Peace Pilgrim, who I believe in the late 60s walked across the country like two and a half, three times with just walk for peace on her sweatshirt.
Mm.
And people were immensely kind to her. It was the inspiration behind a part of the story of Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
And I met a man named Sylvain Quenelle in the south of France, and he had walked for peace in something like 55, 60 countries
Mm.
over 6 years. A lot of the Baltics, around the Mediterranean, through Europe, and beyond. And the man was surprisingly simple, plain, calm, had a very non-thinking mind. He was so present. It was like a Zen Buddhist monk. He had gotten beyond so many of these, call them typical ego devices of overthinking and reactions and hyperfixations and worries about the future and regrets about the past. He could
Mhm.
just be. And as I traveled, I got more to this place of letting go of those egoic mechanisms and working towards just being. Now,
That's,
granted, I've been in psychotherapy for 30 years. I continue to do all kinds of psychological work. I'm in school for psychology now. It's not a destination. It's a journey
yeah,
for sure.
yeah, that's awesome. So, what would you think people misunderstand the most about humanity, especially those who feel afraid of the world right now?
I think people misunderstand most that this is a dog eat dog world, that we're a competitive species by nature.
Hmm.
I'll bring up one of the absolute worst forms of human torture, simply solitary confinement. We are social creatures. We
Hmm.
developed in tribes and small villages. We inherently have this value inside of us that grows when we're of service to others. We feel more fulfillment when we're doing things for the benefit of the community, more so than just the benefit of ourselves. We
Hmm.
get joy out of helping others. And when we remove that from our lives because of our fears, insecurities, scarcity mindsets, or even things like unworthiness, victim mentalities, this not good enough, or afraid to try, then we dampen or darken our light that comes from inside of us from whatever this incredible creator that we have is,
Hmm.
because we are a reflection of our creator.
Hmm.
When we are creating, including creating generosity, we are as close to our creator as we can be.
Right. That's so good. And looking back now, what part of the journey changed you at the deepest level?
Other than the massive amount of help from other people,
Yeah.
wow.
Because I mean, what did you do afterwards? You go from being a gamer on World of Warcraft, change that lifestyle, and then you start to becoming like a humanitarian, like cyclist. What have you? How did it change? Did you go back to gaming? You said no. Like, did it just really just shift your life completely?
I did try to go back to gaming, especially on longer breaks, but it wasn't as fulfilling as it was before. I had found this richness of
Mhm.
existence in life. When I got to Europe, my best friend was like, "Okay, we're broke. You get to learn how to juggle so that we can perform on the streets of Europe." He had learned 9 months earlier. And we kept going doing that. I ended up becoming a full-fledged circus artist. I started my own company, Cirque Quirk, in 2012, well before I wrote my book, The Cycle of Kindness, which I started writing in quarantine,
Mhm.
published in 2024. I had no idea that I was gonna go into this kind of lifestyle, let alone become an artist and painter and photographer along the way. I found these arts and found joy through creative expression. I
Mhm.
felt close to God.
Mhm.
And as I continued doing this, I started being able to support my community and giving jobs to this person and that person, and then having contractors and people that I'm helping cover their living wage.
Mhm.
And sometimes getting to pay people really great amounts of money to do what they love, which is
Right.
so phenomenal.
Well, and tell me more about the book. What was the name of it again? Sorry.
Yeah, I should have grabbed one beforehand, but it's called The Cycle of Kindness. It's a really unique cover. It's got a cog with the world, and you can see the bike with like the recycle symbols. I
Good.
put it I put it in gold writing. There's description on the back. That's
Mhm.
me at 22. And it was such a joy to write. I didn't yet have my first daughter. There was all this time in the world with quarantine pandemic. So I was growing a garden and taking care of my pregnant wife. And I thought to myself, if I never have this kind of time in my life again, what is the number one thing that I would regret not doing the most? And that was write the book. I had a great tutor and mentor who encouraged me for years. He'd say things like, "Son, by gosh, you've got to write that book. It's your life story is so incredible." And he passed, sadly, while I was writing the book. He had gotten dementia, and it was sort of like, okay, I owe it to him, myself, and others to share this story of my faith in humanity and the true goodness of others. And so now my goal is to start a nonprofit where I'm motivating, inspiring, and actually incentivizing people through a variety of means to commit random acts of kindness and senseless acts of generosity, ideally the whole world over. That I want to do motivational speaking tours and be more of a thought leader, think like an Oprah or an Eckhart Tolle, people that are making a profoundly positive impact on the planet really inspire me. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm working towards.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, and your children or your daughter will be very proud to have that beautiful example for her to be able to model as she grows.
Thanks. I'd like to think so too. I now have two daughters. My oldest is almost 6. My middle is 2.5, and we have a baby on the way due August 21st.
That's awesome. You're in the thick of the awesomeness that is parenthood. Mine are 14 and 11, and it's such a blessing, especially when you start to see them shaping their own personalities and having their own thoughts and
Mhm.
desires for what they want, feel like they're called to do.
Mm.
So I'd love for you to share if someone listening feels stuck and afraid to step into something unfamiliar, what would you want them to understand about taking that first step?
The thing about taking that first step is it's a risk, which takes some level of security.
Hmm.
If we're barely making ends meet or hardly covering our living expenses, it's difficult to want to take that risk. And consistency and dedication are key.
Hmm.
Know that you're going to fail. So expect that to take place and learn how to fail forward. Get better at failing every time. Everything that begins small and then grows from there. Even if it's just an idea that sparks in your head or a passion to do or create or make, or if you're in one industry and you really want to be in another, or you feel called to work with people in a specific way, begin volunteering. See how it feels. Commit 90 minutes a day, if possible, or at least a week to moving yourself towards your goals. There's this really great thing called SMART goals. It's specific, measurable, actionable, I forget the R, and time related. So instead of saying, I'm going to start a new job helping heal people, you would say, by January 1st, 2028, I will finish my psychology degree so that I can begin volunteering, and I will do at least 10 hours a week starting in January of 2028. I will ensure that this takes place in Portland, Oregon, where I am moving. And this is all actually true for me.
That's awesome. So you just gave an example specific to yourself on how people can use the SMART goal setting for themselves.
Yeah.
That's
And
super
then we
awesome.
can really clearly say, did I do that thing?
Mhm.
Did I commit to 30 hours a year? 30 hours a month?
Yeah.
Did What's measurable so you can say yes I did that or no I didn't? And ask for support. Go for no when you're asking questions.
Mhm.
Like find people that can support you on your path. Ask a question that you think you're going to get a no for and be okay with getting that no. but then be amazed and grateful when you get that yes.
Yeah. I always like to spin it toward the positive and you go for the yes. They say no, whatever, who cares? But you're going for the yes.
Yeah. That's a
Yeah.
good way of spinning it for the positive.
So it's like, I mean, like I was telling a friend of mine today, like, will you die? She goes, I feel like I will. I go, but you won't. So just go and do it.
Mm,
So, it'll be fine if you don't go for the yes and risk your death to not taking activity. For moving forward, you will essentially remain in the same spot.
yeah.
So,
We often think there's this opportunity cost economics terms when we buy one thing that keeps us from spending that same money on everything else.
mm,
And we have a limited amount of time. But when we spend time moving towards our passions, our goals, our real visions for our life, I believe that our creator or this world that we live in has this little nudge, like a ball down a hill. It's like, hey, this might start slow, but you're moving in the right direction.
yeah, this is right. What's cool is even if you end up on the wrong path, uh, um, our creator has a great way of just kind of picking us up and putting us on the correct path. If we're surrendering enough, like, hey, okay, I'm on the right one. Can you put me on the right path? He'll open the doors and redirect it. You know,
Yeah. I have a lovely reframe for that one, actually. There is no wrong path. Even that deviation from our path or our calling is right for us
yeah,
because it teaches us the lessons that we needed to learn to be moving in that correct or right direction.
that's so good. That's true. I've lived that out myself for sure. Well, where can people, where can we find your book?
So you can find it wherever good books are sold. Online, it's on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. Sometimes it's at a variety of different distributors, but those are the two easiest places to find it.
Awesome. Well, Nathaniel, thank you so much for sharing with us today. And remember, it's not just for the miles you rode, but for the reminder that trust is still possible. To the ones listening, you do not have to travel 28,000 miles to rediscover courage. Sometimes the first step is simply choosing to believe that goodness still exists and that you are allowed to participate in it. Obviously, this is Healed Whole Called. And we remember where pain is not the headline, healing is. We'll see you next time. Thanks again.